welcome back to the Book and Life podcast today. And you're with Crystal Fleming, who is having a great time doing this. We are in a brand new 2023, and I'm hoping that this year is going to prove an exciting and successful year for everybody, including all of you wonderful listeners out there. But before we get into one of the best writers, I have to say, in the business and get talking about her and her amazing journey and somebody that I've grown to respect a lot, and I can't wait to talk to her, and hopefully maybe I even convince her to check out Crystal a little bit closer and see if I'm somebody that can work and create some magic with her. But before we go into any of that, let's jump into the advert called The Shadow by the Time Guardian series, Book 4. The battle is over, the war is won, the prophecy complete, but life can't just pick up where it left off for Ethan. Struggling to cope with tragic loss, at odds with friends at the guard, he finds himself adrift, jumping in shadows and sensing someone who can't possibly be there. Blaming herself for the goddess Athena's death, Giselle swears revenge and nullify the immortals' plan for world domination. But Giselle hadn't planned on love, and that leaves her with an unbearable choice. Should she follow her heart, or the strings of a goddess short on praise but high on expectation, who continues to pull her from the grave? As the guard and the order battle through the past and into an impossible future, darkness lurks around every corner. The fight for the world's survival rests with just one. Is it friend or foe? Who stands in the shadows? Just a reminder that The Price of Freedom by Rosemary Rowan, which is one of her Roman British crime series, is having its royalties donated to the Ukraine crisis. At least I got it right this week. Also, her agent is donating part of her commission to the Ukraine crisis, so make sure you go and you check that out. If you've got a spare pound or two, make sure you pick up a copy. Before I get into anything else, I have to say a big, delighted, starstruck entrance to the most amazing woman. Please welcome. Now, guys, that we've gotten that amazing little tidbit out the way, I have to introduce you to a woman who has by far exceeded any expectations that I can give you in this industry. A woman after my own heart, a woman I adore, and I can safely say would make punk look stupid. So let's welcome on Brandee Stilwell.
Yay! Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
I know it's a bit of a bizarre intro, but I give everybody bizarre intros.
I love it.
That's the fun of this show. We don't do things normal. Normal is boring.
Exactly.
Of course. So I have to ask, what is your current project that you're like the most excited about? Because I have looked you up and I loved everything I saw. Absolutely everything. So I have to ask, what is your current thing that you want to share with all of us that you're excited about?
Well, I have a book that's out now called None of This Is Going According to Plan. And it's a book about true short stories of just random bizarre shit that has just happened to me my whole life. And then once it got published, I have been greenlit to do a sequel. So that's kind of what I'm working on right now. And the joke of that has always been, I can't think of what year this film came out, but it was, I Know What You Did Last Summer.
Yeah, I know that film.
The bad teen horror film. And then the sequel was I Still Know What You Did Last Summer. And so
yeah.
The joke is the sequel to my book is still None of This Is Going According to Plan, because unfortunately I have so many stories of just random things. Like I can walk to the bathroom, I could be having dinner with friends and go to the bathroom and have the most bizarre shit happen in like 3 minutes, and then I have to walk back and act like everything's normal when something just went totally completely awry in 3 minutes. And they're like, my friends are always like, how is this possible? I'm like, and they're like, no, wait, it's you, it's okay, we understand. So, and then right before the book got published, originally was 70 stories, and then we had gotten it cut down to 68. And then right before it went to the publisher, I was like, there's just too, like, can we cut? Like, we ended up cutting like 8 stories the morning that it went to the publisher, and,
Wow.
or to the printer. And, so it's like, I already have 8 here. And then, you know, I hate Facebook, but one of the reasons why I have kept it is because, every day you get a reminder of what you have written or posted, 3 years ago on this day or 8 years ago on this day. And
Exactly, yeah.
I'm like, my mind is weird. Like, I remember things so exactly that I'm haunted by them. And then at other times, the other day, I was looking at a memory and I'm like, wait, I saw Devo. When the hell did I see Devo? like, thank you,
I know
memories.
that feeling.
Yeah. And so it's like, I would always write like story time with Aunt Brandee of just random bizarre shit that would happen. And some of it I would remember, and some and I'm like, oh my God, yes, I totally forgot about this. And so I have notebooks on my desk, and as things, if I'm out and about, I write it down on my phone. If I'm home, I throw it in a journal, and it's usually like a 1-liner, 2-liner, and then I know exactly what that story is. And now it's like, okay, I need to sit down and write this for the sequel. And then in the end of August, I'll be recording the Audible for None of This Is Going According to Plan. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I admire anyone that can do that, because my dyslexia means that reading aloud for me is like physical torture. I never get it right, and then I have to like start it over because I'm a perfectionist and I don't like getting it wrong. And so yeah, I admire you for trying that.
And the thing is, I've never been able to read out loud in front of people. It was always, kryptonite. And there was actually a story in the book of me taking a speech class in college. And now I think because of the whole Me Too movement, you can't do this shit anymore. You couldn't do it. But back then, if you, like, when I would be trying to give a speech and just so uncomfortable in front of people, I would always say, and there was like that weird hesitation. And the professor would take erasers and he would just chalk them up. And if you hesitated at all, you would get them chucked at you. And so I always left the class covered in chalk. And you know what? It didn't help you. Like, I don't know who, like, in what this person's mind was like, oh, if I humiliate these college kids, that I'll beat the hesitation out of them. No, it doesn't work that way. I will say practice makes things not perfect. It makes things a lot better. But I did a book reading a couple months ago, and that was scary because I have done storytelling forever. I've done improv forever, but to have to, and I've done sketch comedy. And so, you're relying on your memory, but to sit and actually in front of people read words that you've actually written it was terrifying. And, I just did that for the first time a couple of months ago, and it went so much better. And then it went so much better than I thought it would. And, I'm no spring chicken, so I would have to wear reading glasses. And I'm like, for the first time ever, people were going to see me with having to put, like, excuse me, let me put my reading glasses on so I can read this thing in front of me. But yet I can see a street sign, a half a mile away. I can spot a cat in a window a mile away. But I couldn't read the words in front of me. And so there was that weird embarrassment. But then I did it. And then I think I did 5 stories from the book. And then that's when we announced that I had been greenlit for a sequel. And then I read the most bizarre, random, weird story that I had already written that would go into the sequel, so kind of like as a bonus. And then afterwards people were like, what the fuck was that? And you're like, I know, right? And then everyone just loved it, and it was great. So sometimes you just got to jump in the pool and do it. And, that was the first time I'd ever read in front of people. And it was terrifying, but then you get into the groove and you just do it. And it was fine.
Yeah.
It was fine.
And I love your title, and I love the fact that it is like crazy shit that happens. Like, because what people don't know is a lot of my crazy ass stories happen the same way as you. I'll be headed to a bathroom. This is why all my girlfriends go with me now to the bathroom, because they want to see the crazy shit.
Yeah.
But I have had girls feel me up. I've had girls throw themselves at me. I've had 3 marriage proposals going to the bathroom. I have had wrestlers propose to me on my way to the bathroom. But I've also had, like, I had just come back from the bathroom and I was sitting with a bunch of friends and I had a black dildo thrown at me to sign by a reader who was a big fan of my work. Unfortunately, all the boys around me were very uncomfortable and I made them sign it too, because I'm like, well, what the fuck? I'm not just signing this shit on my own. You guys are having to do it too. So yeah, like, that's why my girlfriends all love to come to the bathroom with me. Even on my wedding day. Like, my wedding day was this big grand day, elegant, nothing like Crystal actually is, because I'm like this very emo, cowgirl, shotgun wielding, pickup truck loving, cow boot wearing girl. And I was in like this princess elegant dress in a manor house in the middle of nowhere, unexpected to act like a lady.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing like me at all. And of course, everyone was worrying about me falling over or me doing something stupid. They forgot to keep an eye on my husband to be, who actually physically fell over at my feet at the aisle.
Yeah.
Like, total head dive.
Yeah. See, like me.
And I was like, and you worry about me? Like,
yeah. See, like me going to the bathroom, my stories are not like that glamorous. Mine are like, someone had just mopped the floor and there's standing water and I fall on my ass and slide under a stall where a woman's just sitting on the toilet and I'm like making eye contact with her in sewage water. And then I have to
like... Yeah, it's that awkward of, hi.
Excuse me. And then I have to like slide myself back out underneath the stall, get up, go to another stall, use it, wash my hands, but the back of my hair is soaking wet. My shirt, my pants, everything. I'm just, and then who knows what kind of, DNA that's on it. And, I'm like, am I going to grow a tail? And like...
or superpower.
Superpower. I'm either going to be able to fly next week or I'm going to grow a tail. Who knows? Something's going to come about this. So, yeah.
Yeah, don't ever watch the show House, because you will never sleep again. Trust me. Just trust me on that. Me being somebody that has a serious condition, and, like, there's an episode on House with arthritis, right? And it's like this person has never gotten it treated, has always ignored it, who didn't believe she had it, and it nearly kills her, right? But nobody can diagnose what she's got because it's such a rare form that she had. And at the end, did they not just, like, fucking name my condition?
Oh, wow.
So I was like, God damn it, I'm not sleeping for, like, a week. And I didn't sleep for, like, a week. I was so freaked out. And, of course, I wasn't with my partner at the time. I was, like, total single person. I was staying in my own. And I totally freaked myself out with that. So I did watch The End of House, but I don't recommend it.
Is that a Scottish show? Because I'm not familiar with it.
No, funnily enough, it's an American show.
Well, there was this show called House with, is it Peter Lorre, or where he's like a...
Yeah, with the doctor.
Oh, okay, that was it?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. But yeah, some creepy ass diagnosis was had. Like, this woman was, like, pregnant, but her pregnancy was killing her. Was one of the other ones. And I was like, I'm trying to get pregnant this year. This is us actually starting a family. And I was like freaked out because, like, I started having that show play in my brain because that's how my brain works. And I'm like, fuck. Like, it was even like last summer I had to get chest drain in, and I had just watched the Chicago Med episode. Now, like, if you watch the first 3 seasons, everybody that goes into Chicago Med gets a chest drain.
Mm.
Like, every one of them gets a chest drain. And I had to get a chest drain. And I'm like, fuck, I've just been watching it for a week. And of course, I don't freeze. I'm like one of these really weird people that they try and put this anesthetic in and it's supposed to freeze the area. Mine didn't freeze. So I felt the whole thing. Like, I felt the whole process and it was awful. So I am trying to like watch shows where I might not have to go through that god awful result, so to speak. I don't want to say process because it's not really a process, but like, yeah, I completely understand like the weird shit that happens to you when you go to the bathroom and stuff. And I mean, I like my best friend got snogged on the way to the bathroom, and I kind of set it up. It was kind of my fault. So like, yeah, weird shit happens to me and around me all the time. So I love hearing stories about other people going through similar shit.
Yeah.
I kind of look back fondly on my wrestling days because I wouldn't have had so many funny stories if it wasn't for the boys.
Oh, yeah.
I gotta say, like, I found out about you through AJ Lee, and I kind of started mentioning this before we came in here. And AJ Lee is like, she's done comic books and she's done like, she's a wrestling producer now, working on WoW, and she's like done things for Glow, and she's done all this sort of stuff. And like, she just mentioned you very briefly in an interview, and I was like, I have to check this woman out. Now, can I find the interview again? No, because that's just but it happens, like, seriously. I watch something awesome and then I go share it with a friend and I can't find it.
No, I completely understand that one too. Yes.
So like, yeah, and I heard your name and I'm like, who's this? And then I started looking you up and I'm like, oh my god, I love all this stuff that she's done. And I like, the book was just amazing, and I was like, I really want to buy this. And my husband's like, if you buy another book, Crystal, I'm divorcing
you.
So I was like, okay. Because, like, if anyone ever sees my flat, it is literally like a public library. I have every space available is literally a books, like, it's got a bookshelf in it. Like, I think that my baby crib will be like a baby crib with, like, a bookcase on either end, right?
Or...
because, like, I have that many books.
Stack books underneath it to support instead of legs. Stack books.
Thank you. Like, I think that's a good idea. My husband's like, no, because you're going to want a book underneath it.
Yeah.
It's like, shit. Yeah, good point. But like, that's me. Like, I don't have one of the big social lives anymore. I don't go to wrestling shows. I don't write wrestling shows anymore. So like, my entire life is novels and writing novels and talking to great authors about it. And so yeah, I mean, I love it when I meet somebody that's gone through similar stuff as me and I can really connect to them and almost like take the flag for, like, you know, disabled writers out and just go, hey, you know, we're people, we're fascinating, funny shit happens to us all the time, we're probably funnier than any comedian you'll ever meet because our shit's real, you know. And that to me is like what I love to do, and that's why I take part in a lot of disabled programs and things like that, and I promote them. And having you on is like dream come true for me.
Oh, thank you so much.
Well, it's true. I might be sad to say that, but it's true. Like, I have like almost like, my husband calls it my dream love list. Like, I have a list of people that will go on there, like, that I just suddenly fall in love with and I want to like interview and have fun with. And he's like, Crystal, it's like you're going on a first date. Like, I get all these jiggly nerves and stuff like the night before. And then I kind of like have the I can't sleep thing, and then I like talk to him about it to the point where he knows who I'm interviewing because I've talked so much about going on with them. And I literally said to him, I think I'm more nervous to meet Brandee than I would be to walk in a room and shake hands with Dwayne Johnston.
Oh, wow.
So he's like, you gotta tell her that. That is the best line you've come up with yet. And I'm like, well, to me, Dwayne's just a guy. Like, I'm not one of these people that gets like, ooh, over like the actors. No, I'm the girl that gets like hot and bothered by the people that matter, the writers, you know? Like, the writers are what makes me interested. The writers, because, you know, they understand my pain and I understand theirs. And also, I think we're really undervalued. Like, I don't think Hollywood values us half as well as like they really should. So like, I'm always like, go for the writers. Don't go for the stars.
Wow, thank you. I that's like I'm like kind of speechless because I'm like, there's as a writer, there's so many times that you feel like you've fallen between the cracks in the pavement and like no one knows that you're there. So, yeah, thank you. That's very kind of you.
I must admit it would be very funny if you and Dwayne were in the room and I walked straight up to you and hugged you and, oh my god, it's so great to see you! And he'd be standing there looking at me from the other side of the room like, what the fuck? Did I just get upstaged by this woman? Because he honestly, like, I knowing his ego the way I do, he would take that personally. He would then make it a point to make us aware of him. Like, he would go out of his way to like get us to smile at him and shower him with love. And I would be totally like, no, I'm with Brandee right now. I'll speak to you later. I got shit to catch up on. And I think I would wound his little ego, but it would be funny. You and me would be talking about this ridiculous stuff. It would be great. Oh dear me. So I actually interviewed somebody recently, and they had their very own brand
Uh-huh.
of coffee that was named after one of their books. And I was sitting there and I was like, we need to get a brand of coffee made for Brandee. So I was like sitting trying to like think of a good title for this coffee, and I was thinking, get crazy with Brandee. That should be like the coffee. That should be the name.
Or
just, like,
it should
really
be
sick off
I'm
the top.
trying. I'm trying really. I'm trying. I'm trying
that
to
would
wake
be
up. I'm trying
perfect.
to write. I'm trying to work really hard. I'm just trying. Yeah, I think that should just be it. Brandee Stilwell's trying.
We have to find you like a cafe that we can like stick your book in, and then they'll like come up with like a special Brandee coffee.
Wake the fuck up and keep trying. So yeah.
Yeah. Oh my god, I will have to introduce you to Death by Coffee.
Because again, I'm in Los Angeles and it's 8:10 in the morning now. And I had to get up really early to do this, which is not something I'm not normally vertical at this hour. And so I have already gotten up, gone to Starbucks through the drive-through, which they don't usually see me for hours later. And I've already downed my coffee, but I do have like an espresso in the refrigerator that at some point I'll probably be pouring over ice to be like, oh, hey, I'm awake.
Yeah.
So again, I apologize if I don't conjugate words or pronounce correctly, or if I become somewhat brain dead. It's just it's early here. Like,
oh, trust me,
it's early here.
You're doing far better than me. I spent 2 days doing the dyslexia test, which, by the way, is not fun to go through. They make you say the most random crap as part of your test. They ask you to repeat made-up words. Most of the made-up words that she asked me to repeat, I couldn't focus on because they had the word ass in them. My Scottish sense of humor just would not let me cooperate with this woman, and I felt so bad because she was trying really hard. But it was like 2 days of 3-hour testing. And it was like to see if how dyslexic I am, and like if it's number based or if it's letter based. And so the only thing I found out of is I have problems with working memory, which means I get bored really easily and I struggle with instructions.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, well, I knew that. Like, I just kind of felt like Sandra, I kind of knew that. Like, okay. But yeah, I mean, one of the things I will say is if you are dyslexic or you have learning difficulties or you think you've got learning difficulties, for God's sake, get yourself tested. Because universities, by law, have to support you. They have to give you, they all have funding per student that they're supposed to use. And if you don't use that funding, the university pockets it.
Oh, okay.
Right? Which I just learned. Like, I had no idea about that. So I found out I'm entitled to a second screen, a office chair, and a new computer.
Oh, that's cool.
Just because I had, in fact, because I went through this test, it explains what I require, it explains that I need new software, I need a new machine that can run the software, because the software is freaking awful. In that regard, it takes up so much space. And I was just like, I was totally sitting there, like, in shock, because they tell you, like, this is where you're entitled to, like, nearly $2,000 worth of extra support. And they don't tell the students that because the university doesn't want you to use it so they can pocket it at the end of your semester. How
Yeah.
screwed up is that? Like,
Yeah, that's
so yeah, I decided, like, with you on today, I'm like, yeah, definitely need to, like, educate people on that a little bit so that, like, disabled people get a bit more help, a little bit more support, the support that they should have been getting in the first place. But did you find, like, when you were doing, like, university, that you wished you'd had maybe, like, a tutor to help you more, or like anything along those lines?
no, because I um I don't no, just went through I just went through high school and college, and then got into a film school in Rockport, Maine,
Yeah.
where I studied cinematography and Steadicam, and then just made my way out to Los Angeles. So, yeah, my education was pretty standard, pretty easy, and
I am so relieved to hear that. That is actually a good thing, because I've had so many people come on here in the last sort of, like, well, we've been doing this since May, and I've had so many people come on and say, hey, I think I would have been a better writer if I had, gotten support, or if I had understood what I was doing wrong, or if I had understood, like, as you said, why somebody's throwing erasers at me. So it's lovely to hear when actually somebody's
yeah, I mean, that was just because I lacked self-confidence, and I was uncomfortable being in front of people. But now it's super easy, just because I've gone through, I don't know how many improv schools I've gone to, classes, I've graduated from here, I've graduated from there, and it's I think when I first started doing improv, people were like, they knew I was funny, they knew that I had random stories, like bizarre random stories. And I had a friend of mine, when I worked at Mad TV, my friend Lauren Dombrowski, who is no longer with us, she had passed away of cancer a couple years ago, but she was the one that was like, can you go start taking improv, because I feel like if you're lacking confidence, and the more confidence you can have, the better off you would be. And it was so helpful, because I, like, in high school, I was friends with everybody. I was the odd man out. My head was shaved, I wore black, I had red lipstick, the top of my head was like permed and dyed red, and I went to a country school in the middle of nowhere, Kansas, so I stood out like a sore thumb. But at the same time, I was the captain of the volleyball team. I always played sports. My school was small, we didn't have a softball team, so I went out and got on the men's baseball team. And because I went and got on the men's baseball team, I got us a softball team the following year, and to this day that softball team still exists at this small school in Kansas. So it was, I could function, but I just didn't, I wouldn't walk out on stage, and actually, I never thought of theater or anything like that, because it just wasn't, I loved TV, and I loved movies, and I loved pop culture. But again, I would have never thought of theater at the school that I went to. But then as I got older, and I worked on comedy shows, and I was in the room with this person, in the room with this comedian. But it wasn't until Lauren said, you need confidence, go take an improv class and it will kick your ass. And it did. And it destroyed me like repeatedly. But the more you get knocked down,
Yep.
you know, there's a motto in the book. It's like, you get knocked down 7 times, you got to get back up 8. And so by doing that, I could, it doesn't bother me to talk in front of, you know, I have performed in front of 300 people in one night and then 3 the next. And you can hit it out of the park one night and then you can train wreck the following. And yeah, and so you kind of, you know what that feels like, that euphoria of laughter and everybody, you know, especially like in storytelling, people kind of go on that journey with you, and you don't ever want to self-deprecate because that's so easy to do. And if you do self-deprecate, then you're kind of letting everybody around you know that it's okay to punch down on me. And you're like, it's not. You can't punch down on me. You can laugh with me and you can go on the journey with me, but I can't. You have to tell things in a way, you have to spin them in a way to where, you know, hey, you know, you can tell a story of working at a music store and helping, you know, a woman and have her like ask for all these classical CDs, and you spend all this time helping her and you're very polite and kind, and then she takes a weird swipe at you for the way that you look, and then you come up with something to throw back at her. It shuts her down and she panics and hands you a $5 bill and walks out. And the thing is, you can tell that story and make it like, oh, I'm a victim, oh, woe's me. Or you can tell that same story, and it's just the way you tell it and you spin it that it's like, it's hilarious. Like, yeah, that happened and it was shitty, but it's hilarious now. And, you know, and that story is like in my book where, you know, my head is shaved, the bottom of it's shaved, and it's like skater cut, kind of like curly and bright red, and, you know, on one side just above the ears, and then it goes around the front and it's hanging down in front of your face, you know, kind of emo goth kid, and helping this woman. And, you know, we always hated classical because the classical section was so out of order, and it was just impossible to keep, you know, alphabetized. And so it spent like 20 minutes, and this woman just randomly was like, again, I'm in Kansas, and she's just like, you've been so helpful, but honey, I gotta ask you a question. I'm like, yeah, sure, go ahead, what's up? And she's like, why on God's green earth would you have such a stupid haircut? And, you know, I have to kind of stop in the book and be like, my entire life, my sister would, like, my older sister, Crystal, KOYSTL, different than yours. We've already discussed that. But she would always, was like my built-in bully, and would always say mean, horrible things to me. And I would come back like 20 minutes later with a comeback, and my sister would shut me down like, really? That's the best you got? It's just spent 20 minutes and that's the best you got. And you're like, you know, kind of thing. But in this particular sense, I was just like, you know, I just blurted out, oh, I had a brain tumor and I was just trying to make light of a bad situation. Now, that is not true. But this woman, I've just lied to her. But she was also just mean to me. So she volleys the ball over the net to say this mean thing to me. So I lob it back to her. And the look on her face was just like all of the color just drained out of this woman's face. And she just stood there frozen and starts digging through her purse frantically, and just like, you know, she knows she's fucked up. She just did something really shitty and mean to somebody that was lower status than her, that had been helping her and was so kind to her and was just doing her job. And she just panicked and like pulls out her wallet and like hands me a $5 bill and closes her wallet, puts it back in her purse, and like frantically with her little butt cheeks clenched runs out of the store as fast as she can. And I'm just standing there like, what just happened? And then I start laughing because I'm like, yeah, I'm $5 richer. Oh, but man, I have to put all these CDs away. So again, it's all perspective, and it's the way you tell it. And so, yeah, I just,
It's funny when you were telling me that story. I don't know if you know this person, but he is a huge inspiration to me, and I love his story. And if you ever get to hear it, um, I wish I could have him on the podcast because his story is so amazing. But you remind me a lot of Darby Allen, who's this young guy who nobody understands because he has literally his skeleton tattooed on his skin, right? And he does. He has the shaved hair like you. He doesn't fit in. Everyone judges him. Everyone looks at him funny. And he is not being very successful in love, and he's not being very successful with that kind of, the I always say matters of the heart. And it's so weird because I can almost picture you and him just being like the perfect best friends. They're almost like the perfect friendship kind of situation. And it's weird because I think like the more that I come out of like wrestling and like I'm sorry to say this, but if you aren't positive in wrestling, if you're not confident in wrestling and you can't stand in front of a wrestler that could probably break my neck and every bone in my body within like 30 seconds, you get eaten alive because the fans are so ruthless and they're so, they will literally beat you down because you're not giving them what they need or giving them what they want. So it's weird because, like, to me, I just sort of picture you and Darby hanging out, having coffee, and talking about, you know, pop culture and all the things that he kind of adores and you adore. And I don't know, I just see you as best friends. I don't know why. But I just had to say that because I'm like, I have to introduce
oh,
Brandee to
cool.
Darby. Oh, what a team they would make. Um, and if you look him up, he, despite like his appearances, because he doesn't look like an average guy at all, right? Does not look like a wrestler. Doesn't look like a skater boy. He just has this weird kind of aura around him, and I don't know. Like I could just see you two being the best of friends, which I think is kind of awesome. But like I loved when you were talking about sort of like open mic and comedy and stuff because to me I didn't have that opportunity. That wasn't available to me. Here I am as this girl who's been bullied and beaten down and really put through her paces in school and in through her life living in this very, very small town. But who always was like addicted to wrestling, wanted to be larger than life, wanted to be this. There is like a Crystal normal who has her volume turned right down, and then there's the Crystal that gets to come out when she doesn't have family and she doesn't have responsibilities and she doesn't have all those pressures of life. That when she turns the volume up, everybody knows when I walk into a room. Everybody knows that I'm gonna have, things that will shut people down. I literally had somebody tell me once, "Oh my God, we could stick you in a room with the best talkers in the world, like The Rock and John Cena and CM Punk, and you would have them all looking like little girls because you just have this spitfire mentality of I don't care what you're going to say, I don't care if you're going to pick on me, because guess what? I'm just that bit better than you, and I can talk that little bit better. That little fire in me is what keeps me going." And I never had that confidence at all. In high school, I was legendary because I was a dancer and I was so skinny and everyone knew me. But I never had like that over the top confidence. Even in drama school, like I was in drama clubs and I set out dance programs to keep girls out of trouble and I had all these things I did, but I was never confident until I went to wrestling. And I stood across from a wrestler and I had this, he's picking on me in a very public way. He's like, "Oh, you're just a girl, there." And then it was like this, just something clicked in my head where all this confidence, all this fire, all these years of watching wrestling just kind of came to me. And I made this guy back down. I am 5'1", who could probably get blown over by a strong wind. But if you had seen me standing there in front of this guy who was built like a shit brick house, it was a little bit smaller than me, but built like a shit brick house, with a bottle in his hand, and I'm standing across the room going, "I fucking dare you." I was that fearless girl, and I kind of almost miss wrestling for that because it really does force that personality out of you, forces that strength out of you. Um, so yeah, like I so connect with what you're saying in your story. because I had to go a different route. I had to go maybe a bit of a harder route, but I found it, and I think everybody needs to learn that, learn self confidence, learn that you are who you are, and being an individual and being the person that you are is the most
And
important thing in the world, because that makes every
and
one of you.
in the book, I mean, I do try and keep it light. But there are a few stories that
Yeah.
are devastating. They're absolutely devastating. And trust me, I have stories that I could never tell. I could never tell them because
Yep.
they're too fucking sad. And I just couldn't, that's
Yeah.
not who I want to be. So we don't talk about those. But there are a few stories in the book that I can't spin to make light of. And I mean, as a female writer, again, I'm thankful for the whole Me Too movement because, I mean, I had worked on one animated show and I was next in line for a script, but I was told to my face the first, the second, and the fourth time I wouldn't get a script because I had a vagina. The third time was because I was a woman, and that was like
Yep.
to my face. And so you're like, cool, I'm like the oldest one here, and I get it, and I have to leave, and you have to go start all over again. And then
Yeah.
all Me Too happens, and things are getting better. They're getting better. I mean, it's not, by far, it's not fixed, it's not fit,
It's not perfect.
and but your shows like Saturday Night Live that only had like 2 female writers out of like 20 that were men, the other 18 were men. Now it's half and half. Your late night comedy shows that would have 0 women writers now are half and half. So you do see that things are getting better and that they do get better. But again, I it's, again, it's perspective, and again, it's just, you get knocked down 7, you get back up. And I mean, there's even a story in the book about, I know what I look like, I know what my body looks like, and yet here I am being invited to the Playboy Mansion. And, do I belong here? Fuck no, I don't belong here. But am I curious? Do I want to be a fly on the wall? Hell yeah, I do. Because I can sit here and watch people for hours and just be like, oh my God. And to help solidify this, I'm wearing my scoliosis back brace. And so every time I would go, that I would get invited to the Playboy Mansion, nobody was there to look at me. And they didn't even see me. And trust me, some of the men you didn't want, you like, just don't, I thank you for not noticing me. But you had, the girls that were the waitresses were like butt naked, but yet they had body paint on. And it was just like, and I don't look like that. And so I'm just like, inviting me and my improv friends, and we would just be sitting there like snickering. And then of course, there was one time I was there and some of my coworkers from Family Guy were there, and you're just like I have a wig on and sunglasses, and they would still walk up like, hey Brandee. I'm like, oh damn it. But again, because I did not look like I belonged there, but it was, I strategically would wear my back brace because it made me laugh, because it was, I didn't belong there. I shouldn't be there.
Not
And
what they were
I
expecting,
think it's funny. And at the end of the day, my posture is going to be better than everyone here. So it's the long game. It's it's the tortoise game.
Yeah.
And it would,
I love
it
that.
just,
I love that.
it would make me laugh. So, you just gotta, just so many things of, having a broken foot and just trying to get to a Subway and getting, just to get a sandwich and being caught in the door, and just having like men and women just sit there eating, making eye contact with you while you're caught in a door with crutches, and like to where you have to like go down to the ground and like physically and still people are watching you like they're watching a movie, and no, even the employees continue to make sandwiches while you're caught in the door. And again, it's just like I can make this like, woe's me, or like you guys are assholes. And now I'm going to, and I can use this story
Yes.
and, and then we tell it. Or, being at film school and
Of course.
hanging out with guys that you had crushes on and accidentally that wasn't that, but just trusting the wrong people. And the next thing they're like, hey, you want to come with us on, we have this boat. And you're like, okay. And, me and my friend coming, because we had crushes on these guys, we didn't see past anything, not realizing that now we were accomplices with them accidentally stealing a boat. Like, what? Wait, you're like out in the harbor when you find out that this is not their boat. And now I'm an accomplice for stealing a boat. I'm like, oh my God, my career, my life will be over if,
Yeah, I can't say anything because I would probably be the person stealing the boat because I like stealing boats.
But it's like,
whoops.
I'm like, how am I going to explain this to my mom in Kansas that I'm like in a Maine jail because I stole a boat? But I didn't. It was just because I was being silly and had a crush with a guy. And, he was like the governor, I won't say what state, but he was the son of a governor from a state on the East Coast. And so I assumed it was his boat, but it wasn't. And then, of course, the next thing you have to do is help sneak it back into the harbor. And, I have on swing pants and sandals and, the rocks are slippery. There's barnacles and I'm the driest, but I'm the bloodiest. And I have to walk back into a bar to retrieve keys. And I'm scared because I just stole a boat and my career, I could get suspended from school. And we get everything taken care of, get back to my room. And then, because this is my luck, this is the kind of guys that I like. The guy, Mark, comes knocking on my door now at 2-something in the morning. And he's wearing, I guess you would call it like a do-rag, like a handkerchief around the top of his head. It's black. He has on a black turtleneck and black shorts and black sea socks, which are the little slip-on booties. And he has black shoe polish under his eyes. And he's holding a knife. And he goes, you have to help me get the boat back. And I'm like, what? And I'm like, what? You're like, this is like, my attraction to this guy is gone. Like, what a dumbass. And I'm like, okay. So I get back in his car with him, sneak back into the harbor town. And I watch this dumbass with a knife. He puts a knife in his mouth. There is no reason for the knife. It was just show. It was like, I'm a Navy SEAL. No, you're a dumb film school student. And it was just like me sitting here watching this guy swim across the harbor with a knife. There's no reason, of course, the entire time he's trying to be like a Navy SEAL. I'm like, there's no reason for the knife. What are you gonna stab a SEAL? They don't care about, what the hell are you doing? And then I watch him swim the boat back, tie it back up into the slip, and then come back, and it's like, there's curfews and stuff, so you have to take the back roads to get back to my room. And it, so he ends up like, almost like he wants to come in, and you're like, yeah, have now it's like 4:30 in the morning and I have to be on set in like a few hours, and it's like, all right, have a good one. And you're like, okay, that crush is gone. Now I can focus on film school because, yeah, thanks for ruining my crush, dumbass. But yeah, so it's just little things like that, And you, again, tragic when they happen, but now you can spin it and just be like, wow, I made a lot of bad decisions. So many bad decisions. Let me move forward until I make the next bad decision. It's fine.
No, I totally get that. I mean, I wrote wrestling, so you would not believe the crap that I have seen. And I could hear the boys actually, turning around and saying, Crystal, don't you dare fucking say anything. And I would never embarrass them. Not that way. But yeah, I know exactly what that feels like, because I've had those situations where, before I was with Ian, I was very much kind of into the guys and into the wrestling. But I also didn't want to be one of the, I hate using this terminology, but I didn't want to be a ring rat, which is somebody that sleeps with the wrestlers because they're wrestlers, right? So I never ended up dating any of them simply because I never wanted to be that. But I saw what happened with with other girls, and I remember being the first person some of the boys would call to get rid of one night stands that wouldn't leave their room. So I would have to come in and pretend to be the disgruntled girlfriend to
Oh,
get rid of
wow.
people out of their room. And that was considered a rite of passage as a writer. And what scares me, like, I mean, I'm a part of the 1 in 4 Writers Coalition program, which is to help disabled writers actually get more places in writers' rooms and actually help us get taken seriously and not be just laughed at or ignored because, oh, we're disabled, so we must not be able to do our jobs. Um, and I do these programs and I speak up for things like this because I'm tired and sick and tired of seeing really good writers not get their shots. Like, I would love to see more of Brandee succeeding because I think Brandee's fucking awesome and I think she's got some really good shit to tell us. Um, and it's not just that. I look on it as I know friends that are incredible writers and they don't get shots because of women or because they're trying to be in a male-dominated industry. Um, and the Me Too movement. If you guys are part of the Me Too movement, I'll suggest you take a very close look at the WWE right now and take a look at the fact that Vince McMahon paid an affair off $3 million. Does that not say anything? Like, it's still going on. We still need to be aware and we still need to support each other as females and make sure that we're not getting taken the let up. Um, and I believe in that, and I believe in that. And I also want people to take a look at, well, how many females is actually writing wrestling right now? I can tell you it's not as many as you think. There's so few female writers now in wrestling. And I myself had a similar experience to you, Brandee. I got told that because I had a vagina
Yeah.
that I couldn't write wrestling. I had studied under this guy, this legendary wrestling writer, Vince Russo, and I got told, hey, you're a female. Sorry, you won't make it in this business. You will not be a wrestling writer. And it gutted me, and it did put me on the floor for a while. But I'm fighting back, and I've got this podcast, and I work with wrestlers back and forth on characters and things like that. So I feel like I am still helping, but it's very sad that somebody like me can't be
Yeah.
taken seriously just because I'm female. So, with all that being said, is there something that you've got upcoming that is really exciting that you want to share with us? Is there something that we all need to be on the ball looking
Just,
out for?
I'm in the middle of writing the sequel to None of This Is Going According to Plan, and we're going to
That's awesome.
do the Audible the end of August. So hopefully sometime in September that will be up and going. And the publisher is just like, so when are you going to have me the sequel? I'm like, when I have time. Time right now is something that's just so hard to find.
Yep.
So
I think we're all finding it. How did you feel in the pandemic? Was your writing affected like the rest of us, or did you find it kind of made you?
I knuckled down and I did it more. I had a older white male that was somewhat successful, had been fired from his position, and he had reached out to me to be his writing partner, and I've never written with anyone before, and to me, having a writing partner means 50-50. I soon found out that that was not the case. In this, it was like 95-5. So I ended up writing everything, and this person kind of, every meeting we had kind of fucked it up in one way or another, and I would be like, we can't have a meeting until you get caught up on your writing, and he couldn't get his stuff done. I'd never seen anything like it before. I mean, if you were like, hey, you have 14 days to write this graphic novel, I would do it in 13. I did it. And I don't really suffer from writer's block. And again, it goes back to improv. And the thing is, and a lot of people look down on improv, but the thing with that is the reason why they look down on it is because they've heard a joke about it. But they don't realize that it's the writer that wrote that joke used to do improv. And so the sad thing with that is that does kind of poison the pool. But with improv, I was always taught, my brain works like, if this, then what? If this, then what? If this, then what? And my mind can work very quickly. And then there's times where something can be so in front of you and you can't see it. And then if that's the case, and that becomes my writer's block, then I get in my car and I will drive to San Diego, get a cup of coffee and turn around and drive back, or go on a long walk, or even sometimes just calling a friend and being like, hey, this is what my situation is. And them not even having to say anything, me just talking through it out loud. And I'm like, oh, there it is, there it is, there it is. Oh my God, I got it. And they're like, you're welcome. I didn't say anything. And I'm like, but you helped me, you know, and then you can go back and do it. So during the pandemic, I actually got a ton of stuff done. And then of course I kicked the writing partner to the curb because this person just had an opinion about everything, but then couldn't get anything done. And I actually had an old coworker of his was like, yeah, this person is like P.T. Barnum. He's a showman, loves to be the center of attention, but doesn't have the talent to do it, and needed to attach themselves to somebody to kind of help move things along. And I was like, yeah. And I mean, I even, again, grown-ass woman, allowed him to put his name on some of my stuff that I had done. And so as soon as I was like, I can't do this anymore, I got gaslit. And you know, I'm like, yeah, this isn't working. I don't feel like you listen to me sometimes. And he would be like, you need to calm down. So fun. And I would be like, well, anyway, like I was saying, in the same tone of voice. So took all of my credits back, left him with 0. And then I heard the other day he got attached to somebody else, and it was in the press and everything. But then other editors were like, did he actually? I'm like, fuck no, there's no way. No. I worked with this person 13 months, never wrote. The only thing he wrote was one children's 15-page script. It took him 7 weeks to write a 15-page script. And when he handed it to me, it was word diarrhea. And so I had to do numerous grammar passes to get it cleaned up to turn in. So yeah, in the 13 months we were writing together, he wrote one 15-page script, a children's script. So yeah, when I found out that I'm like, no, he has talked this poor soul into attaching himself to that script, to that thing. So yeah.
That is crazy. I've been in that situation, so I know how that feels. It's awful because I did the same thing. You know, I worked with somebody, and then, you know, they maybe did like a handful of Skype calls with me and fought with me over a lot of different stuff, but I did 99.9% of the writing. You know, so I know how that feels, and I've worked with, like, I did a beautiful children's script, and I was told this was going to go to Disney and it was going to sell, and he would walk it right in the door, it would be no problem. And then I got gaslit and it never went anywhere, and I wasted 6 weeks of going back and forth with him before he took it in, and then supposedly it got rejected, but I did hear rumors that it never made it in the door. So like, I know that feeling very well, and I think that's another reason that you and me and a lot of the other people, we should start talking and saying, hey, this person grabbed.
Well, but at the same time, I'm also like, but you know what? I can sit here and be like, I wasted 13 months, and that's easy to say. But at the other time, now I know that, you know, if somebody ever says like, hey, do you want a writing partner? No, I don't. And I can honestly say that now because I've done it. And some of my other scripts that I had done that I hadn't touched in a while, I went through and I polished them. I made them better. You know, so and instead of being like, oh, woe's me, some of these scripts that I wrote 5-10 years ago are better now than they were 5 or 10 years ago, because it did put me again, this person had no opinion on any of it, but it did allow me to go during the pandemic and that time to be like, I haven't touched the script in a long time, and it's done, and I really like it. I'm going
Yeah.
to take another pass at it. And so it allowed
Yeah.
me to make everything, my whole arsenal of Bibles, pilots, feature treatments, outlines, one sheets. It allowed me to update every single thing that I had. And so at that point, I'm like, you know what? I didn't waste any time. And, anytime I do a panel or something like that, and somebody asks me, like, what could you do to help a fellow writer? Um, you know, Me having all my stuff in one place now is helpful. But one of the things I would always tell people was, when I worked at Family Guy, I was around so many agents constantly. So you had the writers agents that would come in for table reads, or if a famous actor was brought in, they wanted to, for a cutaway, they wanted to see the office and stuff, because it was like Disneyland. It was. And our record booth was there and everything. But
Yeah.
so here I am around all of these people at my fingertips. And to this day, I've never had another opportunity like that, because you never know when it's going to happen. And so as a writer, as a struggling writer, I had all of these projects. And I don't know if you guys know what a lazy Susan is. Do you know what a lazy Susan is? So it's like a cabinet with like a little
Yeah, we do.
turntable on
Yeah,
it.
we do.
And so I would have all these projects,
Yeah.
and I would work a little bit on this one, and then I would turn it. And I'd work a little bit on this one, and I would turn it. And I'd go to the next one, but I wasn't finishing anything. I wasn't finishing anything. So now I'm surrounded by all these
Yeah.
agents that are like, "Oh, you're so funny, you're hilarious. Can I see your work?" And I didn't have anything done. I didn't have anything done. I didn't have anything to show them. And that was
Yeah.
such a mistake. And I just feel like, had I had just finished one thing, my life would be different now. And it did force me to, as a writer, you're never done. You can always go back, until they are physically shooting it. Then you have to stop. Obviously, it's over. But yeah, so that's what I would tell people, is you have to, finish your shit. You have to finish your shit. And so that way, you never know who's in line in front of you at Starbucks. You never know who's sitting at the cafe table beside you. And if they ever say, "Well, what do you have?" Well, we all have smartphones now. So you're like, "What do you want? Do you want a comedy pilot? Do you want a drama? Do you want a pilot, or do you want a Bible? Here's a Bible here with artwork. Here is an outline. Here's a feature treatment. Do you want horror? What genre do you want?" And so you have it, and you have it at your fingertips. And so that's the main thing that I tell people constantly, is you have to finish your stuff. And nothing drives me crazier than somebody's like, "Oh, I've had this idea for a long time." Your idea, fucking put it on paper. Like, put it down. Even if it's an outline, if it's a 2-page outline or a one sheet, put it down. I mean, people sell shit off of one sheets, but you got to put it down. It's just, the people are like, "Oh yeah, I've been toying around with this idea." And I'm like, well, you're not going to sell it in your head. Put it down. And then if you ever are in an opportunity where you are in a meeting, or
That's it's so funny you say that, because I am exactly like that. I sat and I finished The Immortal.
yeah,
So there's like a pilot, and there's a pitch deck, and there's like everything you could possibly want is there. It's the same with my rom com. My rom com is 90s Bridget Jones hilarious kind of style. Good old British 90s rom com, and it's got a script, it's got a pilot, well, not a pilot, but it's got a pitch deck, and it's got everything that you could need. And I've shipped it to investors, and I've shipped it to people, but I am no longer as connected as I would have liked to be. So like, I understand the adore, like, having that opportunity to have all those agents around you is fantastic. And that's why I always, like, if I'm starting a project, I don't say anything to anyone until I
yeah,
finish it. And then I'll be like, "Hey, I've got this, like, let's go see what people want." But because a lot of my ideas are, I tend to put a lot of meat into everything I do. Like, there is backstories to every character. There's a reason for everything. That I think a lot of the time I chase away people people simply because they look at it and go, oh, well, she's got a really, really well developed. What is there for me? And I do feel sad for you because there is really good co-writers out there. Like, I know from my perspective, like, every opportunity I've had to co-write with someone, I bust my balls 10 times harder than they do because I want them to know that I'm a decent partner and that I will do everything I can. And I love working with people, and I love working with people that I feel connected to. And I love working with people that I know have the similar issues that I have, that have to overcome the similar issues I need to. I think it's sad when you do get a really, really, really bad partner and they don't have that and they don't give you that. And honest to God, like, I mean, if somebody had come to me yesterday and said, do you want to work with Brandee Stilwell, I wouldn't have just ate their arm off. I would have eaten them entirely, because I wouldn't have, like, hesitated to work with somebody like you, because you're as hardworking as I am, you push as hard as I do, and you believe in getting shit done. I've had so many people that say, oh yeah, we work really hard, and then when their ass is in the fire, they don't do it. Or you get people that come to you and say, I've got 50 investors and I want to do this and I want to do that, but then they don't actually have the investors, and you kind of end up feeling that frustrated way of, oh god, there's another Hollywood liar or another New York person that doesn't have a clue what they're doing. Like, those are like the things that really get me down and really disappoint me. So if I ever actually got an agent who could, like, do what they say they could do, I think that I'd have a lot of shit going. But yeah, the first person I would call if I got an opportunity to do, like, if Waking was going to be a feature, or if, like, Immortals was going to get made, the first person I would phone would definitely be you. Also, because our comedy is very similar, I've noticed. Like, you find a lot of same the shit that I find funny, you find funny. Like, like, if you fall through a door while you're trying to make out with somebody, like, you and me would laugh at something like that, because that shit happens. That shit's funny. But, like, I get a lot of people that say to me, I don't get the joke. Like, real life is funny. You don't have to have an overly exaggerated joke for it to be funny. Like, that's the best thing. And, like, that's the one thing I can safely put my hand on my heart is when I wrote Waking, I went and I literally grabbed as many of my friends as I could, and I just, like, pinned them down, and I went through the story with them. And I get told all the time, it's got the perfect rom-com beats, right? Like that whole 90s theme. But I know with my dyslexia, I need someone to go through it and make sure it's actually, not got lots of mistakes in it and it makes sense, right? But then I'm aware of that, and I go and I get help. I think it's sad that there's a lot of writers out there that don't know that, and I am going to publicly announce this on my podcast, that if I ever get anything that's got an opportunity to go that next stage and to go somewhere, I'm definitely going to be phoning Brandee and saying, hey, you fancy writing with me for a while? This could be fun. This could be some funny shit. And yeah, don't forget me. Step into an elevator,
or step into the elevator and have it not be there. Yeah,
has happened to me. No, like, it's like a glass elevator. See, when you go into the glass ones, I'm scared of heights, so I can't look out. So I stand there, like, totally frozen stiff, eyes, like, screwed shut as far as they can go. And I sometimes forget to get off, because I'm, like, desperately trying not to look, so I don't freak myself out and have this, like, huge panic attack. So, like, yeah, I have to go in gas lifts, like, with my friends. Or
that sounds like me in skydiving, because the last time I jumped, I've always done tandem, and I remember, like, the guy, like, interviewing me, like, wait, you've done this 5 times, why are you still going tandem? I'm like, oh yeah, I forget to pull the ripcord, like I do. And you see it in the video of the guy behind me, like, slapping my hand to look at the altimeter, and then, like, hitting my waist, like, you have to pull it now, like, pull it. I'm like, what? Oh yeah, like, I'm busy taking in everything as the earth is getting bigger and bigger and closer, and you're like, oh yeah, I should probably pull. Okay, yeah, I'll pull the ripcord now. Yeah, because splattering on top of someone's barn in the desert in California doesn't sound like a cool way to go out. So yeah, I'll pull it.
knowing my luck, I would miss like the landing place. I'd be like 50 miles in the opposite direction.
Well,
because that's the shit that
the first time I skydived,
I took a
we
boat.
had dirt devils, or the dust devils. They're like little cyclones.
Yeah.
And we were the last ones out of the plane,
Okay.
and they're like, "Oh, yeah." So they're doing the guy that I'm jumping with is doing like really hard, quick hook turns, and I'm like, "Oh God, I'm gonna vomit! I'm gonna vomit!" And but we're avoiding the dust devils because if your chute glides across one of them, it will collapse and you'll die. And so I'm like, oh, so it's like we had to do a slide in land, and then it's just like, give me a second, and it's like, whoa, and I'm like, okay, yeah, not the best jump ever, but my last jump, somehow we ended up, I had jet fuel in my hair, and I had a show, and there was no traffic, was so bad getting back that I couldn't go home and shower and change. I had to go perform on stage with like jet fuel. And as I'm running into the theater, there's a lot of guys standing outside smoking. And I'm like, oh, Jesus, don't get anywhere near me because I'm gonna flame up. And then all night people kept saying, do you guys smell gasoline? Someone smell petrol? I'm like, hey, what's up? It's me. Yeah. the airplane, just as we jumped, like just dumped a lot of shit like fuel, and it like landed all over us. And even though I had a jumpsuit on, it was still in my hair and in like part of my face, and thankful for goggles. Yeah,
that would have stung like a bastard. I definitely have that, because when I used to swim in the ocean. That was like, I used to climb cliffs without safety ropes, and I used to swim in the ocean. Scariest thing I ever had was a seal took a fancy to me.
Oh.
And I mean a fancy to me. So I'm swimming along, and the little booger starts nipping my feet. So I swim a bit faster, still does it, stop, look around. He comes up with this big cheesy smile on his face. I'm like, oh my God, here we go. Because seals in Shetland are so freaking curious, because we don't go in the ocean very often, because guess what is like going into the Arctic? It's freezing. So I stopped, and I like played with him a bit to get him to go away, and then he starts swimming alongside my best friend, and he tries to mount my best friend, like my friend that's with me. Thank goodness she's passed away, because she would be so embarrassed to hear the story. So she's like fighting this seal off. I'm swimming because I'm like, I'm not slowing down. I'm like, I'm out of here, because if I slow down and she gets away from him, I will be the next thing it'll try and mount. So I'm like swimming really, really fast, and she's going, "You bitch for leaving me!" And she's swimming really fast, and we get to the rock and we climb up, and she's just sort of like,
yeah.
Have you ever had a wet slap across your face with the back of her hand? She just sort of went splat. And I went, yeah, I kind of deserve that. But it's like weird, because any wildlife that's not like domesticated seems to have this thing where it wants to chase me. So I always try to be the fastest person. Like, I'd be chased by roosters and cattle and bulls and horses and goats. Like, there is not a farm animal or a wildlife animal that hasn't tried to eat me, chase me, or just like kill me in some shape or form.
My goodness.
So, yeah. And if you're ever with me, my husband reckons I caused the earthquake that happened in September of 2016 in Burbank. And he also thinks I caused the forest fire that happened like 6 days later as we were leaving.
I remember that.
The LA Zoo. Yeah, we literally were like, we came around the corner and we were going down into the freeway, and then all we saw was just like the fire going up.
Yeah.
And it was
I was at John Williams at the Hollywood Bowl, and we were, it's an outdoor amphitheater, and I normally like I wouldn't have shorts on, but you're like watching ash like land on your legs, and I had parked at the LA Zoo and had taken the shuttle from the LA Zoo to Hollywood Bowl. And when we were going up Cahuenga and then back down Barham, you could just see the whole ridge on fire. And it was just, and of course, I'm always like, the animals, the the birds and the rabbits and the foxes and the coyotes. Like, that's what, people's homes can be rebuilt, but I don't know. I care about the forest critters. So
animals can, yeah. So do I, and I that was the thing. Like, every time I watched the fires in LA, because I watch your news all the time because I miss LA. I love LA to bits. I would probably be the only like Scottish, Southern girl with like the shorts and the emo look, but with my shotguns and pickup trucks in LA if I lived there. I would totally stand out, which is not maybe a good thing. But yeah, like, I loved it, and I said to Ian, I'm like, if we ever go back, he wants to go see the warship. That's his big thing. He wants to go see the battleship. And I was like, I promise that you can go see the battleship if we go back. Because, like, I had to give 2 days to my friends. I promised 2 days to my friends to go have lunch. And we had lunch at the Cove. Like, there's a little French restaurant just off the Grove. Grove it is. There we go. There's the word. And we had a little French restaurant there. We went with Paul Allen Smith. And, of course, he doesn't speak French. And we were in a French restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
I don't speak French, and I'm in a French restaurant. And Ian didn't speak French. And I was like, oh my god, how are we going to get through this? So luckily, the girl was French-Canadian, so she could understand Ian. So I was translating Ian to Paul, and Ian was translating for us to the woman. It was like the weirdest thing. Glaswegian works for people who are from every other country but America. For some reason. So I was like a unpaid translator for my husband the entire time we were away. Like, totally. I had a TSA agent come and put her hand on my knee and ask me if we spoke English. I was like, that way where you try to laugh, like, try not to laugh because it's such a stupid question. So yeah,
hey Chris,
I find it funny.
I'm gonna have to go because, like, soon I need to go because I have stuff I need to get that I have to do today.
Yeah, that's no
problem. So did you want to ask me
no problem.
anything else? And then I probably need to go in like the next 20 minutes or so.
Yeah, sure. So I guess the next thing is what books you read.
The thing is, as a writer, to keep my mind fresh and creative, and I know that this is probably not a popular answer, I don't read a lot of other people's stuff because I don't want anything in my head that can cloud my imagination. So I can always be, I've never ever had anybody say, oh, well, this happened in this and this happened in this. I'm like, no, because and I have, like my friend Danielle Page, she has her young adult stuff, and I absolutely love Danielle Page, and she's the author of Ravens and Monarchs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But as far, like, for me, there is one book that I do read often, and over and over, and that's Blake Snyder's Save the Cat. And that's just because if I'm doing an outline or something, I need to make sure that did I hit every bullet point as I'm fleshing out an outline. But then if I'm writing a feature treatment, then I know what story I want to tell, and you have to do a condensed version of it. So, other than like Tina Fey, I wouldn't say Amy Poehler, just because Amy Poehler's book, Yes Please, I thought was kind of sad and depressing because she was under contract to write it. And she's such a funny, talented person, but she was under contract to write it and was in the middle of a divorce when she was writing it. So it comes across in the book. So you're like, oh, this is sad. I didn't expect, I wanted something funny. So I would say, Sarah Silverman's like Bedwetter. Yeah. So just, I I have comedians that
Oh
like
no, I
Steve
get it.
Martin or David Sedaris. I like David Sedaris, but sometimes he's a little mean spirited. So I'm like, I don't know about that. But for the most part, yes, as long as he's not being mean towards somebody else. So that's what
Yeah,
I read. And then of course, Save the Cat. If I go back to certain chapters just to make sure that I've done it correctly. Just like if I'm writing a comedy pilot,
yeah, you're hitting.
there's 3 pilots that I will watch repeatedly if I'm writing a new pilot, just to make sure that you're hitting all the beats. And that would be
You're hitting the
the
notes.
pilot to the Mary Tyler Moore Show, which it is outdated because the storyline is she's recently, she was married and now she's divorced, and how will she make it as a single woman? You're like, oh, stop. But there's that. Cheers.
Yeah.
And Taxi. And the thing is, I always hated the show Taxi and never liked the show. And I know these are American shows, and I don't know if you guys have seen them, but
Yeah.
but
Oh no, we do. We get all your stuff all the time. I was gonna ask you, like, if you had infinite amount of time to just sit and enjoy like books and actually reading and just enjoying the literacy world. Is there like an author that
the
you
problem
might
with
pick
that
to
is
read?
I don't have time. I don't. And it's one of those things where it's
I
like,
know
okay,
it's
well,
a
I'll listen to the
magical
Audible,
question.
but it's like if I'm listening, I don't. If I'm out walking, then I'm calling somebody that I haven't talked to in a while. Or if I'm driving from one place to
Yeah,
another, then I will
yeah,
listen to like Wait, Don't Tell Me, or Pod Save America, which is depressing, or a game show, what is it, pop
it
culture
is. Yeah,
happy hour kind of thing, because
yeah, of course.
I've always felt like I'm good at bar trivia. So if anyone needs a teammate for trivia, I'm your person. And then
I do.
and some days are better than others.
I
Some
take you
days
up
I'm
on
still
that one right
pandemic and I
now.
don't know how to tie my shoelaces. But then the
Yeah.
very next day, last night I'm watching Jeopardy and nobody knew the answer. I'm like, it's
Oh, I
payola.
love that.
Payola's the answer. You're like, nailed it. Yeah, so yeah.
And you're screaming at the TV. Yeah, I'm with you on that. So, was there a writer that would you say it particularly inspired you to like write and got you excited, or was it
I would
just a case of
say
it was more television
probably
based
Tina
and you
Fey.
like
I was at a
right?
taping of Saturday Night Live like a lifetime ago, and this is when she was still on, and she was the head writer.
Yeah,
And a friend of mine was a writer on Saturday Night Live, and
yeah,
he knew how much I loved the band U2, and they were performing. They were the musical guest, and so during camera blocking, we were up in the green room, my friend Doug and I, and so I'm sitting here next to Tina Fey in the green room at Saturday Night Live, watching her, and just to see the whole process of the chaos that happens. And you might have 20 sketches, but it's going to get cut down to like 14, literally minutes before it goes live again. And so then
yeah,
when the show went live, we were in the audience. And, just kind of talking to her in the green room, that things are chaotic, and yet she's still like, hey, how are you doing? And like, wait, like, I couldn't multitask in that kind of capacity to go check and see how somebody is doing while all this is happening. And then there were the after parties afterwards, and just chit-chatting with her briefly afterwards, it meant something to me. So I have always watched and have cared about her career, because as a woman, it's just there wasn't a lot of roads that were paved for us at the time. So to watch this woman who was paving the road,
no,
she was my inspiration, Tina Fey.
When it's coming into your writing, how did you go about creating the obstacles that you do in your story, and what inspired you to add to
Well,
your
when I was
books
a
when you were
kid,
writing
uh,
fiction?
and I've told this story many times, but if my mom was shopping in a store, and we were like, my sister and I were bored, and we would be with our dad, and we would be sitting in the mall. My dad would be like, tell me, who is this guy? So as this person would walk by, he would be like, who is this person? And I'd have to make up a name. I'd have to, what kind of car does he drive? What does his house look like? He has a pet pigeon named Gary. And, and the thing is, we were always taught we couldn't be mean. You couldn't be mean spirited. That's too easy. So the more creative we had to be, and that just like stayed with me. So even if I'm writing, or if I'm doing, if you're doing improv, if I have a show later tonight, but I saw somebody, a woman at the mall, and I was watching her posture and the bags that she had, and again, all these years later, that's kind of my head, then I might walk out on the stage thinking of this person that I saw at the Beverly Center earlier today.
Okay, that's a very different way of looking at it, compared to what a lot of writers do. But when you're actually writing the scripts, is it like just a free flowing movie for you, or is it
it's a movie for me, because even the way my mind works, the way when you are telling me, when you've told me a story, I see it played out. And if I have an idea of something, it depends on my time, and that is something that I just don't seem to have that much anymore. But if it's like, I have this idea, and then it's like, in my spare time, from one place to another, I'm like, oh yeah, I could do this, and I could do this. And again, I always have notebooks, and I have notebooks that are a fourth full, completely full, empty. But it's hard. I try and keep one or two on my desk at a time, and that's the ones that I focus on. So if I don't have time to sit down and write something out, I jot it down, or like, this person does this, and this scene happens. And then later it can become a puzzle. Like, hey, there's this scene that I have in my head here. Where can I fit this in later? So that's kind of my process. But if I have to sit down and write something, then again, it goes back to the improv of if this, then what? And if this character has this, then what kind of world does this fit into, and what is their personality? And every single creature is going to be different, and every single person has a different personality. So
of course. Has there been a character that you would say has stuck with you like the most, like you just haven't quite ever shake them, they've always just sort of been there as like your kind of confidant or friend?
Well, I would say Sasquatch Detective, because Sasquatch Detective was born on an improv stage, and somebody had established that there was a scene in the woods, and I had been trying to do a Zooey Deschanel voice. And so anytime I would do like my Zooey Deschanel impression, so like that was just something I would do in my car. But here we are in the middle of a show, somebody's established the woods, and I stepped out and introduced myself as a Yeti that I had named Tanya. That I had named after Tonya Harding, the ice figure skater, because somebody and I we were talking about Tonya Harding just earlier that day. Yeah, and so that was like in my head, and I always liked her because she was the underdog. She wasn't pretty. She didn't come from money, and she didn't have the opportunities that she had all these other obstacles that all these other skaters didn't have. And so I always liked her and was rooting for her. And so anyway, I walked out on stage and introduced myself as a Yeti named Tanya, and that all of a sudden the scene became, that I had a podcast and that I needed guests. So I I was there to kidnap them, to bring them from their campsite to my treehouse to be my, you know. And so that just stayed, you know, people afterwards were like, oh my God, that was amazing. That was so funny. And I ended up giving her my Zoe Deschanel voice. And so then I was at Second City, and I had just auditioned to get into the grad program, got in, and it was, we had, you know, our show, and, you know, there were 8 of us, 4 women, 4 guys. And our director, Ron West, was like, I need every single person to write a sketch that has all 4 women in it. And you can add a guy, all the guys, whatever, but it has to have all 4 women. And I was on my way to WonderCon. I was driving to WonderCon. I'm off the 110 freeway over by Dodger Stadium. And there is a sign that says Police Academy Road. And in my head, because I was like, the only time I was going to have is like thinking driving in my car. And all of a sudden it hit me. The 70s show, Charlie's Angels, was, the beginning was once upon a time, 3 little girls went to the police academy. And I'm looking at this sign, I'm like, oh my God, that's it. I am going to write a Charlie's Angels sketch with the 3 other women and add a Yeti. And so it ended up over time evolving, and it went from Yeti detective to Sasquatch detective. And the name Tanya had always stayed, but the sketch, the sketch that I wrote ended up anchoring the show. And after our show, people were like, it ended on such a high energy note. People were like, what the hell? That was amazing. And everyone was so excited. And, you know, again, you would come out, one of the women was being interviewed. She was the brains. The other one was the bronze. And, you know, she was like going over all of her black belt material. The other one, my friend Amanda would come out and talk about how, you know, she had watched criminal procedure dramas her whole life, and her friends had always told her she'd make a pretty convincing prostitute. And so they're like, you're the beauty. And then, so for the 4th person that was being interviewed to get into the police academy, I would climb over this pony wall and introduce myself as Tanya, as a Sasquatch from the Appalachian Mountains. And one of the women would be like, no, we can't, you know, this is for humans. And it became this whole thing about diversity. And, you know, I would walk across the stage, you get the Bigfoot stride kind of thing. And then it started like the music to Hawaii Five-O would start. Nick would start singing this song about Sasquatch detective. And then the lights would come up and down, and we would do like little vignettes of like, you know, one person, like Amanda driving the cop car, and I have the window down, and I'm like a dog trying to catch air. And then the next scene, we have coffee, and a guy comes out and shoots and kills Amanda. And then and it becomes me having to track down, but it's all done in silence because it's lights up, lights down. And then you would see, you know, me and one of the female cops catching the bad guy in the interrogation room, him being let out. And then it would like end with this Charlie's Angels pose of all 3 women. And then Tanya would break through at the end. And again, it's all set to Hawaii Five-O and this crazy song about Sasquatch detective and belonging. And, you know, so they're doing the Charlie's Angels freeze frame, and I would break through, and then we all like did a weird freeze frame at the end, like fake laughing. And then that was the lights. And then the audience would be like, what the hell? You know? And so from doing that, you had some of the editors from DC Comics had come to see it. And eventually the publisher came to see it. And then I was asked to, you know, I was fleshing her out as a animated character. And I was asked to flesh her out as a comic book. And that's when she went into the back of Mark Russell's Exit Stage Left, the Snagglepuss Chronicles.
Oh, I love that. But have you got
Oh, absolutely. And I have had different
Explore.
opportunities to pitch her as, you know, Cartoon Network, as, you know, more adult
I was gonna
style.
say you can
And
only pick
then I have
one.
also written her as, you know, grade school level,
Yeah.
you know, but like leaving Easter eggs for adults. And
Oh,
then
okay. Yeah.
at one point she was in play to go through DC Comics for like the DC Daily that would go into HBO Max. But when AT&T bought Warner Brothers, they came in, they did massive layoffs. They
Wow.
did 3 massive layoffs.
Yeah.
And that part of DC Daily and the whole that where she was going as an animated like 5-minute story thing got cut. It got killed. But
Yeah.
I own the IP for it, so I do. You know,
Oh.
I own 100% of the IP. So yeah, yeah.
Well, at least that's not lost. Like, at least you've managed to protect it, which is a really good thing. Because, you know, have you found any techniques that you would say were most helpful,
Um,
and were there ones that you wished you hadn't
Again,
tried?
I'm gonna. You know, It is a tough question, but. And I apologize
Tough
for beating
question.
this over the head, but that is improv. Again, I'm so thankful for it because, again,
Improv. Yeah,
it
no, I agree with you.
I don't struggle like a lot of people I know because I am if this then what. So it's, you know, the only thing that I've ever really tried that didn't work
Yeah.
was having the writing partner that I had. It went very south. Yeah.
Well, that's because you haven't had me, okay, girl? You didn't get me.
Okay.
That's the difference. You get me, you'd be making gold. I promise you. That's just me, you know, being me, I suppose. Going into your life, what would you say is the first thing that you do when you want to de-stress from your writing
Coffee.
and your life?
That to sometimes I'm just like,
I'm there.
it's
Oh my
even
God,
during the
you're my
pandemic, you know, when you weren't supposed to
my
go
heart.
anywhere, there is the Starbucks. It's 2 blocks from me with a drive-through. And you could go through contactless, like have them scan your phone. I have my mask on.
Yeah.
And for the 90 seconds it would take me to drive home and sip my coffee was like, I got this, you know, I mean, or this is giving me a reason to continue. And that and my cats. I'm so thankful for my cats.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
I agree. Furry babies all the way, all the way. Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. What hobbies do you enjoy, and is there
Everyone
one
keeps
that you
telling me
wish
to
you
take up
explored more?
pickleball. I've only
Don't
played
do that.
once and I was
No,
good.
that's such a bad
You know,
idea.
but I was, you know, let's see. Um,
Were you not in pain afterwards? Like, did you not have
well,
like
you know,
the whole
I've
aching and sore and
I've come
just
from an
feeling like
athletic
crap?
family, so luckily, you know, I have that gene, and I'm thankful for that. I remember there was a time I would play softball like on every Sunday, like 9 a.m. until 6 p.m. Like you were just there. Uh, and there were several of us. We were like softball whores. You just played, and you're like, oh, I have to go get food, and people will be like, oh, we're short a player. Can you please? And I'm like, okay. And you just keep playing. But I think as far as like hobbies go, I
You're like,
mean,
I can do it later. Yeah.
you know, I've been going to the Moth a lot, but I am not, you know, like the last time I went, there was like 150 people there, but 36 names in the hat. And only 10 names get pulled. And I don't have the luck to get pulled. And I think the time before that, it was like 200 people and 40 names. And you're like, I'm all ready to run up on stage and tell a story. But then your name doesn't get pulled. So I think, you know, like my hobbies right now is just, now that we're coming back out of the pandemic,
Yeah, it can be depressing.
A lot of the improv theaters that were here in LA are no longer, but different comedy places are starting to pop back up.
Yeah.
And some of my friends, a lot of my friends called it during the pandemic and like moved away and moved home. And they're like, oh, I'm giving up comedy and now I'm going to be a real estate agent in New Jersey. So there's fewer and fewer of us. But, you know, I say like my hobby is, you know, I was at the Groundlings Monday night. Friday, I was at El Cid for Uncabaret. The Tuesday before that, I was at the Moth. So I guess those are my hobbies right now, is just going to comedy shows, supporting my friends.
I love that. Yeah, yeah, I love that. Are you a
You know, my
crafty
mom
person,
was like,
or
my mom when we were
are you
kids
just
would
like
make
the
shadow boxes, and she had a booth at like, not like an antique store, but like at a flea market kind of thing. That was like her side hustle. And so my mom is crafty. I feel like I
yeah,
have great visions,
yeah,
but I don't have the skill set to execute. Yeah.
yeah? It takes a lot of patience and practice and time. I know, because my family were
Yeah.
all professionals in that area, and I always felt like I let them down because I wasn't talented. So I have to ask this. I have a long-term illness myself called idiopathic rheumatoid arthritis, and it makes me slow down and appreciate the day. What makes you sort of settle down, smell the
Um
roses, and remind yourself why
Probably
you're doing all this
my
crazy stuff?
cat. My cats. I'm sure there's men out there rolling their eyes right now. But you know, I have, I, I don't think I would be here. I wouldn't have
Oh,
survived.
screw that.
If I didn't have my cats. And you know, I have writer producer Liz Lemon. I have Count Laszlo Cravensworth, aka
Yeah,
Jackie Daytona, and I have socialite Maura Rose. And Maura doesn't have eyes, and
yeah,
she is such an awesome kitty. And you know, she doesn't have eyes, but we play crinkle ball every night. I make sure,
yeah.
no
She
matter how
is.
tired I am, you know, at least 10 minutes. She's the most amazing goalie. She can stop and block anything because you just have the crinkle ball, and you throw it towards her, she blocks it and stops it and goes chases it down. So yeah, I would say my
Yeah.
cats.
Wow. That is incredible, by the way. Because you wouldn't think that a cat would
Yeah.
adapt as well to something like that, and it's always lovely to hear that they do. My
every
cats refuse to play, so I don't
every
have that
night when I go to
luxury of pretending to
take a
play.
shower, I have
And just look at
to
me like I'm
make
mad.
sure she
So
doesn't have toys in there, because she takes toys into the bathtub because she can control the roll and everything where they go. So it'd be nothing to be sitting at my desk and
okay,
look up and she has a shoestring that
yeah,
she's just
yeah,
heading towards the bathroom, and then you look in the bathroom, she's jumped up over the bathtub and she's in there with the shoestring playing with it. Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, I love that. So our last but not least question for the day is, where's your favorite place to curl up in the day? Do you have a reader's nook, a cafe you like to go to, or a garden that you just like to curl up in and sort
That
of
sounds so
reset and just
luxurious.
find
I
your
don't have
calm
that
and your
luxury.
peacefulness?
Because I work, and then and I work from home, so I'm usually at my desk.
Yeah,
I will say that you know, one of the good things about working from home is,
yep,
you know, I'll have my TV on in the background, and right now Wimbledon is going on. So, you know, it's nice to have that. So I guess that's my luxury. But then by two
ah,
o'clock in the
yeah,
afternoon here, you guys are, you know, Wimbledon is done for the day. So then I'm like, eh. Um, so you just have the Golden Girls or something playing on a loop in the background while I'm working. So, but yeah, I don't, since I'm just so busy, I don't really have the luxury of like going
yeah.
anywhere and relaxing. I'm like, what is that like? I wouldn't know. I don't have that. I don't have that.
Yeah, no, it's a funnily enough, it's actually dictated to us as authors that we have to go and take time out and just curl up. And yeah. So our word game, you've got to tie it
Okay.
to either a book, a TV, or pop culture. So it's a bit of fun, and I kind of imagine us at this really bizarre picnic, and that's what the
Makes me
board's
think
on.
of
So
Brandon
your
Flowers,
first
the
word
lead singer
is
of the Killers, who I
flowers.
love so much. Trees
Oh, I like that.
makes
Okay,
me think of
trees.
something that I just wrote that I can't talk about because I signed an NDA. But uh, I was just
Oh
reading
no,
about
that
like new
sucks.
funerals. So I guess like where you can be like in like, yeah, you can be like the pod and then they put the tree above you. So that
Oh yeah, you can be
is
like a pod in a
something
tree.
that I just read the other day
Yeah,
that I was like, oh, it's a great idea.
that's cool.
Uh,
Yeah, it
Peaches
is.
makes
What
me
about
think of
peaches?
Georgia, and then that's where my publicist Jennifer Perry works
Everyone
or
says
and
that.
lives
Oh
is
my
in
god.
Georgia. She's lovely. She's so fantastic, and she's
Who's
from
awesome, by the
Georgia.
way,
So
folks. Yeah.
you're Georgia Peach.
She is, and can I just say, I've spoken to her on LinkedIn, and I adore her. And if I could ever have a
Yeah,
publicist like her,
she's
I
a
would be
fantastic human being.
crying with such gratefulness and appreciation every day.
Plums make me think of
She really
butts,
is. What about
just
bugs?
because of the weird little line in them. Just butts. Every time I see a bunch of plums, I'm like, that's a butt.
Bit random.
And then I haven't had a plum
So you don't
probably
like
in like
bite
15
into
or 20
plums
years,
when
but I
you
remember even as a
identify something
kid,
rare?
and we would eat plums all the time, but I would be like, this is a butt. Because that was me being a smart kid. This is a butt.
Yeah. I like
Cherry
that, though.
pie
I
is
think
my
it's fun.
favorite
What about
dessert.
cherries? That's mine
Yeah,
too.
done.
Can I just like take you home and you can be my new
Woo.
best friend? Done. Yeah, there we go. Ian, we've got a roommate. I actually do have a second bedroom, so it's kind of funny. Okay, the last one was supposed to say iced
Iced
tea,
tea.
but for some reason
Well,
my autocorrect made it say ice.
years ago, I remember, so if you're thinking, I'm going to go with Iced Team,
I don't
and
know
then
what this
I was
is.
like, I want to win a gold medal in the Olympics so bad. And the only thing possible that I could possibly ever do at this point in my life would be curling. So Ice Team makes me think of being on a curling team.
I like that. Okay, so like my autocorrect didn't actually just completely screw up the entire game, so I'm grateful for that. But it has been an absolute. I mean, I can't say enough how much of a pleasure
I did. Thank you so much.
to have you involved in this, and I really hope you had fun. I really hope you come back because that's the testament
Yes,
of whether
please.
people have actually enjoyed this when they come back. So yeah, please feel free to come back and let your lovely team know that they are more than welcome. And I promote anything from TV to comics to books, you name it. I think I've even promoted a book.
Yes,
once.
please. I would
So,
love to. Thank
yeah,
you.
let's have some fun and